All right. Well, Tami and Ryan, thank you so much for joining me for the podcast today.
Thanks for having us, Arlena.
Thank you. Yes, good to be here.
It's so fun. So this is a little experiment because can't recall that I've ever interviewed two people at the same time. And this will be fun because it'll be sort of both sides of the recovery story. What's really been coming up a lot in my world is family members. Family members want to know what they should and should not be doing. So I am so thankful that y'all are here and willing to share your story and any advice you might have for both sides of the fence. So what I thought we would do is do a quick little lightning round, and then we'll kind of get into your stories. You up for it?
Love it.
All right.
Long pause on a podcast. All right, cool. Okay, Tami, I'm going to ask you the lightning round question. So do you have a favorite recovery book as somebody you're on the Al-Anon side, right?
I am on the other side. I don't identify as an addict, but I do identify as a loved one of an addict.
Yes.
So my favorite recovery book, I would have to say, we did a book study actually at Free a little over a year ago, and it was Richard Rohr's Breathing Underwater.
Ooh.
And I thought it was excellent for recovery, excellent for me who identifies as the loved one. And it was really helpful, even for me to understand how better to respond in the world. So I would say that would be my favorite.
That's awesome. What about you, Ryan?
She totally stole mine.
Yeah.
That's my.
He even has it up on his phone.
Well, because I wanted to be sure I got the subtitle right. It's Richard Rohr, Breathing Underwater, Spirituality and the 12 Steps. And I recommend this book to everybody because he does such a good job at explaining the 12 steps and their power to normal everyday people, even if you're not in recovery. Because I think everyone could benefit from the 12 steps. His whole point is we're all in need of recovery. And that just resonates with me so much. Even if you're not an alcoholic, even if you're not the loved one of an addict or alcoholic, we all need recovery. So anyway, I highly recommend that book. It's my favorite recovery book. There's other great ones out there too, but that's my all-time favorite.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's so funny. Like when people first get sober and they go through the 12 steps, they're like, oh my gosh, everybody needs this information. So I feel like that's sort of a common experience in recovery.
Yeah.
from both sides, both the alcoholic addict and the loved one. Okay. Tami, do you have a favorite, like go-to mantra? Like mine's obviously one day at a time. Do you have anything like that you kind of your go-to fallback quote or saying or anything?
I think that's a tough one, but what I typically say and what I say in podcasts and interviews and magazines that we've been put into, I find myself keep going back to service keeps us sober. So service is the centerfold of everything that keeps us centered, that keeps us sober, that keeps us serene.
Love it. Yeah. Service actually is one of the fastest way to rebuild your self-esteem, which takes a hit. When you're going through the throes of addiction, it doesn't matter what side of it you're on. That's beautiful. What about you, Ryan?
Mine's one word. I was gonna say the phrase "you can't do it alone," which is always go-to of mine, but more so my go-to is stop. It's that whole idea of pause when agitated, but what I've noticed is when Ryan is trying to figure everything out, working in his mind to get all the answers and to try to make this thing work, just stop. Like God says this to me all the time, Ryan, just stop for a minute. So when I can remember that word, stop, it's okay. You don't have to have all the answers. You're going to be just fine. Just stop.
It's good.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. But women typically don't like it when men say, just relax, calm down. Yeah, don't say that.
Yeah, I didn't say I say it to other people. I say it to myself.
I don't know why I said that. It reminded me of a funny joke my husband and I say to each other. Stop. It's sort of like the halt, the hungry, angry, lonely, tired thing.
Yep.
But stop. Yeah. Just relax. God's got this. Like we don't have to
Yeah.
do everything.
Relax and take
I
it
get
easy,
it.
right?
Yeah. Easy does it. Okay. And let's see. Tammy, do you have a regular self-care practice? Like, do you have like a morning ritual that you do, or do you think of it more in terms of like a weekly routine?
This year it's just been so different. So my word is be. And so I've been trying to just remind myself, be still and know that I am God. And I will say that to myself since January 1st. I have it on our door going out of our house. So if I forget and it's too
Smart.
busy, because we have 4 kids and it gets a little hectic, like the reminder of just be still, just be. Sometimes I'll turn my song on. Sometimes I'll open my hands if I have an extra minute to receive and just be and to listen. But I would say that that would be my main go-to is stop, receive, open the palms, be still for a second so I can hear God's voice. Because it's really easy for Tammy to start running really, really quick as soon as my feet hit the floor and I get my cup of coffee, to just get into the routine, into my daily grind. No pun intended.
So easy to do. And can I just note how brilliant it is that you've set up your environment to support you by putting it somewhere where you can see it and have that daily, just that constant reminder. I think that's so smart.
Yeah.
What about you, Ryan? Do you have anything that's smart?
No, I'm a lot dumber, apparently. Um, you know,
Just kidding.
it's really simple. If I don't start my morning with the third step prayer, I start with a really simple, hear God,
Mhm.
hear God. So how's that for my one word, stop?
Mhm.
And then my simple prayer, hear God. And it's really simple. Hear God, you take it, because I'll screw this whole thing up. Let me pay attention today. When I pay attention, I do a lot better. The other thing I do is, since November 1st, I have walked downstairs each morning. It's one of the first things I do. And I drink 32 ounces of water, just to stay hydrated. And because so many people recommend it, and I feel better when I drink more water. And when I start with 32 ounces, I'm on my way. But I've done it every day since November 1st. And it's a good routine for me to be in.
That's amazing. Do you do prayer? I know you said that you say the third step prayer. Do you practice meditation in the morning? Oh dear, it's frozen.
Love to lie to you and say, man, I am just the best meditator on earth. Um, I I kind of suck at this stuff. I'm getting better at it. Sitting in silence and quiet is really difficult for
Mhm.
me, but I'm getting better at it. I don't start my way every day with meditation, with quiet, but I do find myself doing it periodically throughout the week. Sometimes it's 2 minutes, sometimes it's 5 minutes. Um, and when I do, I'm amazed at the clearing of the mind that happens, the clearing of the heart. So I'm an advocate of it. I'm getting better of it at it.
I mean, that's a win, right?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
feel like just the attempt is a win. So that's awesome. Let's see. What's one thing you wish you knew in the beginning of the recovery journey? Like if you could go back and look at your beginning self in this process, is there one thing that you wish you knew?
I think that I would have to say knowing my boundaries better,
Mm,
being able to identify what are the boundaries, maybe to have, yeah, sat down and really put those up before just moving through the motions. I think that would be my best answer.
God, that's so smart. I mean, boundaries are a funny thing because sometimes we don't know where they are until we cross them, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I feel like in the beginning of recovery, we are so practiced at disassociating from our feelings that in the beginning we don't know what our boundaries are because our feelings tell us where the boundaries are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
that is really a great response, knowing my boundaries better. And that comes with time, don't you think?
Very
With
much so.
practice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
And
really
learning
good
from
one.
other people, I think too, like
Oh
surrounding
yeah.
ourselves with other people is really helpful.
Learning from
Hearing other
other
people's
people.
stories.
Yeah, that's, I borrowed, that's actually a really good point. I borrowed other people's boundaries until I knew what mine were,
Yeah.
Mm,
learning from
That's a good way to
others.
put it.
yep.
Yeah, learning from others. I love that. Ryan, she is kicking your butt here.
She is. Is she winning?
I'm just kidding. I was just
I'm
jokes.
just glad you're asking her first because then it gives me a
Oh,
moment to
gee.
think about it.
She's crushing
Um,
it. So yeah, what do you got?
So the thing I wish I would have known and held on to was the whole idea of progress, not perfection. Because
Ooh,
man, when I heard people in recovery, and I really did think, I thought, man, they're just so much smarter than me. They are so much more
I know.
spiritual than me. And I was spiritually disconnected in so many different ways. And it was so scared for me to admit it because at the time of when I got sober, I was also a pastor. And I thought I had to have it all together, and God's going to be disappointed in me. You're going to be disappointed in me. And I need to impress you. That's how I'm going to get on the inside. And what I had to learn was all of that I had to put to rest. And yeah, there was people that had more spiritual growth than me because they'd been at it for so many years. And I was coming in broken and disappointed and full of shame. So I wish I would have just relaxed a bit more when I
Hmm.
when I came into recovery. I wish I would have just taken a deep breath and said, "Here, God, you take me," because I'm a hot mess right now. Um,
Yeah,
some days it's still like that too, right?
of course. I mean, we're so full of self-judgment. You were a pastor while getting sober?
Yeah, I always say that there's my story is not sexy in the sense of Ryan got
Wow.
sober, then went into ministry and became a pastor. No, I was the drunk pastor, full of shame, hated myself,
Oh,
would stand up in front of people and preach to people and say that there's this God out there that loves you so much and you're worth it. The problem is I just didn't believe it for myself. I believed it for everyone else, but not me.
I think that is an amazing story. I think that's amazing because it is so, it speaks to the human condition, right? It doesn't matter if, like anybody can fall prey to alcoholism, right? Alcoholism is addictive,
Yeah,
right?
and it
Alcohol is
doesn't
it
discriminate. I mean,
doesn't
that's why
discriminate.
we say doctors, lawyers, business people, rich people, poor people, and pastors and clergy too. Like we are not
Yeah.
exempt from this.
Yeah, Richard
Um,
Rohr, he was a priest, right?
that's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know if he identifies as an alcoholic, but I
Well, I
actually don't know.
mean, yeah, it's so funny. So, I mean, I've been sober for a while and sort of have I've had to, I mean, we have to wrestle with that question, are you an alcoholic? And what's
Mhm.
interesting is nowadays it's like the conversation is changing to alcohol use disorder, which is a spectrum, right? Like we are not all like living on the streets that, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's many degrees of alcohol use disorder, and I'm all about let's catch it before it
Yeah.
gets into the red, so to speak. I think our video might be frozen.
Tentative.
Can we? Okay, there might be a
I
little
wonder
bit.
if we should move over there.
You want to?
We might be in a bad spot under metal. We're gonna move.
Okay,
We're gonna change locations with about 13 steps. How's that?
13 steps. That's usually not a good thing, but okay.
Not the best number. Do you want to go to where we were with Rob? To the table? Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a lot of construction and stuff going on too, so that doesn't
Is
hurt.
there?
You want to
No
stand?
worries.
Okay. Let me see if I can get you there. Okay,
Good.
maybe we'll see.
I can see
Oh.
you.
Okay, he went to refill his coffee. That's what we do here.
He went to refill his coffee.
Uh,
Might as well.
might as well.
Okay, so sorry about that.
No worries. Um, okay, so we were talking about progress, not perfection, which is actually such an important point. because, they say that comparison is the thief of joy. We get sober and we come to the rooms and we see other people with all this time. It's so easy to compare where we're at with where they are. So, but yeah, progress, not perfection. Okay. Let's see. And what do y'all do for fun?
Oh man, you're pointing at me. We have 4 littles, 10, 8, 5, and 2.
Wow.
So gosh, we stay pretty busy with them. These days it's hard. It's hard to find like things to do outside of the home in the middle of COVID and lockdown and restrictions. But
Yeah.
gosh, some of the things that we love are just going to the mountains. We love getting a hotel, letting the kids swim, just getting out of our home for a day, for a night. We love doing that. We love to travel.
And I think fun for us is we're finding it in the simple. I mean, if there's been a blessing with this pandemic, it's been like, yeah, keep finding joy. The purest forms of joy come in the most simple moments. So we just had a big snowstorm here in Denver, and 2 feet of snow. And, we got to build a fort with the kids inside and let them sleep in the fort. And then the next day we went outside and built a snow fort, and to see the joy in their faces at just the simple moments of being present, cooking together. We like to cook together, and we'll make it a whole family thing. Yeah, it can be an absolute mess with 4 kids.
More baking than cooking. Yeah.
Yeah, baking. Maybe that's the right word.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's
Cookies.
being home, being together, being home. We find a lot of joy in that. That's fun for us. Not always, of course, but a lot of times that is fun.
Well, I mean, we have to pay attention to when joy happens, right? If we're so like in our minds, it's easy, man. I got to tell you, 4 kids, I had 2 and I was exhausted. People are like, why didn't you have more kids? I was too tired. So 4 kids,
Yeah.
4 kids will keep you busy, but, being present and noticing their sweet little faces or when they're giggling, there's nothing that makes me happier than hearing the kids laugh. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So very cool, taking joy in the simple things. Well, let's do this. I have some questions for both of you. So, but I'm just curious, Ryan, tell me, as a pastor, when did you start drinking?
Yeah, that's a great question. In high school, I drank a couple of times. I grew up in a pretty a Christian household and a pretty conservative religious culture in mid-Missouri. So I drank a couple of times in high school, but there was too much shame associated with it that I was like, no way, I can't do that. But what I would tell you is when I did, this feeling came over me of this is the best thing ever. This takes away all the bad stuff. This removes shame, and I like this feeling, but it's too bad I can't go there. It's not accepted. It's wrong. It's sinful, whatever word you want to attach to it. And what's also interesting to note is my brother was an addict and alcoholic, in and out of the county jail. And he brought a lot of chaos into our household, into the home. And it stayed hard for many years. But my first semester in college, he got clean and sober, but then he relapsed and got behind the wheel of a car in that relapse. And he was killed in that car accident. And that was a moment in my life where, I was 18 years old at the time. My whole everything about God and religion and my life was turned upside down. So I hated this God that I trusted and gave my life to. And that's when I can really identify when the drink became the thing for me that it was the only thing I found that brought me a sense of ease. And so it picked up heavily there, and it continued through college. And then I went to seminary. I became a campus minister at a university here in town. Then I became a pastor of a local church, and I could no longer hold it together. I could no longer keep the mask on. Alcohol had become king in my life, and I was giving up everything for the next drink. And I was miserable, and I hated myself, and I was filled with shame.
That's really intense. I'm so sorry about your brother. That is so painful.
Yeah,
And I
thanks.
think, sorry, there's just a tiny little lag, so I apologize if I speak over you. You know, I would imagine that going through that experience of losing your brother, in the questioning God part, that had to shake you to your core. How did you continue on this path of going to seminary and then becoming a
Yeah.
pastor when your faith in God was so shaken?
For me, I describe that as the power of grace. That was God in my life, even though I was pushing God away, even though I didn't recognize grace was present. That's exactly what it was. And then there's also this practical piece of it's all I knew. From the age of 17, I knew I wanted to be a pastor. And so, even in the midst of my drunkenness, the Christian faith was what I knew. Studying the God stuff, theology was my go to. Blessing and a curse, because what I had to learn through all that was um, religion can't save you from this. So I could not put down the drink. And I would beg God, God, please, please help me with this. God, please take this away from me. The problem was I was holding on to it too tightly. God, please take it away, but not really. Don't take this away because life will be too scary. Um, so what I know is religion can't save me from this stuff. And I would talk a big game and I would try to impress you with theological talk and language. But the truth is, only God could do that for me. And it wasn't till I surrendered to God, not to religion, but to God, that I found a path of freedom.
I am so glad that you said that. I mean, I grew up, super churched, and religion did not save me. And I thought it failed me, actually. And so I totally turned on it. I'm so
Yeah.
impressed that you did not.
Oh, I did turn on it. I turned on it, but it was also all that I knew. So it was, God, I'm
Wow.
not going to do this ministry stuff. I am not going to be a pastor. I'll go into the classroom. I'll be a professor. And that's what I thought I was going to do. But I'm not doing this church stuff. I'll teach about it, but I'm not necessarily going to live this stuff,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just amazing. That's amazing. I mean, that is grace. I mean, I guess it's where you were meant to be, right? I mean, my mind is a little blown right now. And then so what happened that if you had been begging God to fix you and heal you of this alcoholism, what was your turning point? Did you have like a moment of clarity? Did you hit like rock bottom? Like, what
Yeah.
was the turning point? Like, what was your last day one? Like, what happened?
I like to, I heard some friends say to me that rock bottom is when you stop digging. And that makes a lot of sense to me. The moment you stop digging, because the truth is, we didn't lose the house. I didn't lose my marriage. I didn't lose everything around me yet. It was well on its way. And when I say I didn't lose my marriage, well, Tami was frustrated. She was scared. When I got sober, she was 9 months pregnant with our second daughter. Her greatest fear was that I wouldn't be sober to take her to the hospital because Ryan was blacked out drunk every night. And so the moment I stopped digging was a Monday morning. It was January 7th of 2013 when she came down the stairs and I was passed out on the couch again. And she found the empty liquor bottle that I thought I'd hidden well enough and apparently didn't. But on this morning, she had tears in her eyes and she said, Ryan, what are we going to do? And she might have said that 1,000 other times. But on that morning, I heard it and I heard the word we. I wasn't in it alone. We were together in this. And that gave me some sort of weird sense of comfort. And that was also when I that was my first day of recovery. And there was a lot of things that happened on that day, but that for me was the rock bottom of seeing the tears and hearing what are we going to do and seeing how broken she was by the chaos that I was creating in life, by my addiction, my use.
So how long was that period of like terrible alcoholism, let's call it? How long do you think that period
Yeah,
was?
where I really ramped things up. I think it was from about the age of 23 till it's funny you ask, I really wanted to get sober before 30. So I could say, you know what, I partied some in my 20s, but I also got sober before I was 30. I got sober on my own one time for 5 months at 29. And then I told my sponsor, whom I was meeting with every week for just a few weeks, I said, I'm good, man, I got this. Relationships started getting better for me. I was the fat guy. I was weighing in at 251 pounds. I lost 50 pounds in my first few months of sobriety. And so I was like, this is good. What are y'all still doing in this recovery stuff? I've got this. I'm good. And that wore, and then I was right back to where I started and worse. I ended up getting sober later when I was 30. I was 30, but it did not happen in my late 20s. I think it was God's way of keeping me humble a little bit to say, no, Ryan, you don't got this. When you do things on your own, you don't got this. You need me. You need community. You need connection. You don't have anything.
Yeah. God, community, and connection. That's it.
I feel like,
That's-
he broke his leg and like his femur right in half in a wakeboarding accident. And that for me, because we've been together for 18 years, he was 21.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when I started really seeing signs of, ugh, I think we might have something on our hands here. There might be something going on, because that's when I started seeing signs of addictive behavior.
Okay.
And it just continued getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
Okay.
That's
So
when I
for
was
you, it started
introduced
when he
to-
was, it started for you when he was 21.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when I started noticing behaviors that I was like, what is that? What is that?
You're all,
What is that about?
Something's not right here.
Yeah.
Well, and
Something's
what
amiss.
happened at that time when I was 21, when I broke my femur, I was introduced to pain pills. And
Ooh.
I was introduced to the idea of, wow, what happens when you mix these with what you really love, alcohol? Then you were introduced to a whole nother world. So that was a scary time in my life. And yeah, 9 years of that. So
yeah,
thanks be to God. It's
Are
not
you
that way.
saying that? Are you saying you abused opiates as well?
Yeah, and it didn't start that way. They were given to me, again,
Ooh,
I'm
that's how
from
it
mid-Missouri.
starts.
It was 2003. And so that was back in the day when all you had to do was take them all, then go back to your doctor and say, hey, I'm out, I need some more. I mean, doc, look at my leg, I'm in pain. And I just kept taking them. And then I found out what happens when you just one day run out and you're not close to your doctor. You get really sick. It's what they call withdrawals. And I didn't know anything about that because I was just the alcoholic. I wasn't some sort of drug addict. But yeah, my addiction, what I found in my addiction was it wasn't picky and choosy. Anything to make me feel different, to escape the feelings of not liking myself, not being comfortable with the world around me. Give me that. It doesn't matter what it is. I won't be picky and choosy.
Did you did you start abusing pills? Did that become like your main addiction? I mean, where did the opiates take you?
Yeah, it did not become my main addiction. If it was there, I took it. Alcohol was the thing that brought me to my knees. The other stuff was
I
very
mean, what you're
good.
describing. Yeah, what you're describing is being dope sick. And so I didn't know if you, I mean, a lot of people, I just interviewed this guy whose daughter got in a car accident and they started giving her the opiates and then she was shooting heroin like between her toes and her, I mean, it can lead people to some really ugly life. I'm glad you didn't have to go there. Okay, so you get sober and Tammy's broken and she like clearly is, I feel like the alcoholics, and I have some questions for Tammy. I feel like the alcoholics get a sense for when the loved one is done. Right. And like, it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh no, the jig is up. I have to change now. Right. Tammy, when you were watching Ryan go through all this, did you go through like the typical control thing? Like, first of all, a lot of family members feel like it's their fault or they try to help the alcoholic in some way. What was your experience like during those 9 years?
For a long time, it was Ryan talking me out of it being a problem. And he was very convincing. It was new to me seeing somebody that was an alcoholic. So he could tell me, I can just drink more than you. I can drink more than that guy over there. And I can still function. Look at me. I'm still getting up and I can still lead my services on Sunday and be a pastor. I don't have a problem. And I'm like, you're right. You're good. That's fine. So for a long time, he had me convinced otherwise. Like he was just a heavy drinker with a better metabolism than me. And he could always drink anybody under the table. So I believed it until it continued to be a problem. And it just little by little got worse and worse. And what I mean by that is there were nights he would fall asleep on the couch and I couldn't wake him up. So I went to bed by myself over and over and over and over. And so that increased. He would tell me I didn't really drink. Well, I couldn't wake him up. I couldn't nudge him awake. So I knew that there was something more going on. So in the mornings, I would say, gosh, when I went to bed, because I was working a corporate job. I was still getting up early in the morning when Ryan was like just a couple hours into his sleep. And I would check the bottles, the liquor bottles. And I'm like, dang, that seemed like there was a lot more in that when I went to sleep last night. So then I started thinking I'm going crazy. And so I actually got a permanent marker out and started marking his bottles when I went to sleep. And I would get up in the morning and I'm like, huh, he's lying to me. And I'd call him around noon when he'd wake up, even though I'd been working for 6 hours already. And you're lying to me. Well, no, you're not. You just marked it wrong. So it was this whole thing of I'm going crazy. You can only take that for so long. Then it was like I started finding liquor bottles in the suitcase, behind the laundry, in his sock drawer. So it just increasingly got worse and worse. And like Ryan said at the end, it's like I've had it. Like I'm tired of feeling like I'm crazy. I'm tired of being told I'm a liar when I feel like I'm really trying to be honest about what I'm seeing and hearing here. So yeah, I was at the point of I was just pissed off, straight up pissed off. I was angry. I was resentful. I was kind of checked out because I was just going through the motions at that point. I'm like, I don't know. We're so disconnected, but I still love him. And I know him. I know his heart. I know who he is at his core, but dang, this is really tough. So that's why I was still in it. Like, yeah, there was a lot of frustrating feelings. But I knew Ryan when he was like, we've known each other for a long time. I saw it progressively get worse. And that's why, a lot of people say, well, why'd you stay? And what made it so easy? It wasn't easy. There was nothing easy about it, but I love this dude. I love him. And it's like, what are we going to do? Because if I have to drive or call somebody to drive me to the hospital to have our second baby, like, I don't know what we're going to do. And I'm kind of done here. Like if that's my bottom, If I have to pick up the phone and call my sister or my friend to drive me to the hospital, there's going to be another conversation. And I don't know what that looks like, but it's not going to be probably a good conversation or a fun conversation.
And by the way, Shiloh was born, our second daughter was born February 18th of 2013. I got sober January 7th of 2013. So the beautiful kind of ending to that story is I was able to drive my wife, my pregnant wife, to the hospital sober and be present, fully present for my second daughter's birth, which is a beautiful thing. And it's not a pat on the back thing. Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is being a father, right? Everyone should do this. But if you're a drunk and you're blackout drunk, you know what a gift it is to be able to be fully present in those moments that matter most, because you missed so many of those moments because you were so selfish. You pushed everything and everybody away that was meaningful to get what you wanted.
I mean,
so
is that really fair though, to say that you were selfish? Because I mean, being in the grips of addiction, it's brutal for everybody. It wasn't, and that's the thing about addiction is that we lose the ability to choose at some point, right? Oh, okay, you can call it selfish, but it doesn't seem that sort of is lacking compassion and context a little bit, right? Like it's a brutal, like you did not choose, you were asking God to help you. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I relate to, I feel for both of you, but I just feel like that is the judgment that we have on ourselves when we, and it's so painful because we know that's not the way it should be or could be, but that's brutal. And I'm so glad that you were able to be there
Yeah.
for both of them
Me too.
during,
And I think
during
it has
the
more to do with shame than selfishness and
Oh,
shame
sure.
work together for me. And it's the shame that says, I don't know how to get out of this. Therefore, I'm going to do it on my own, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to do it on my own. And that generally does not lead me to good places.
Isn't it funny how our natural instinct is like the exact opposite of what the actual solution is? Right.
Yeah.
I am so ashamed. I'm just gonna do this by myself. But that is like, that doesn't, I have not found that to work. Tammy, let me ask you, when people would say that, you said something that really like, oh, kind of hit me in the heart. When people ask you, why did you stay?
Yeah.
It's like that puts you in such a painful position because on one hand, you know something's wrong, but on the other hand, this is somebody that you love. And I know that you guys are religious and believe that marriage is a sacred contract. So to hear people ask you, why did you stay? That had to be such a painful question.
Yeah. I mean, in the middle of it and after, I mean, yes, just like you, people still saying, what was it? Why did you stay? And I think that's it. Like it's a whole lot of grace there and God's grace for sure. Yes, I made a commitment to him, but it's not just that. It truly is. He's had grace for me. I've had grace for him. It's a relationship, like this is just one piece of the whole pie of our 18 years.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. He has shown up for me, and I feel like I can do the same for him.
What would have been more helpful? Would it have been more helpful for someone to say, how can I help you? How can I support you? Like what would have been a better question to support? You know what I'm saying? Because I think for, the families that are in this, like they don't get a lot, especially from people who don't understand. What would have been more helpful?
I don't know. I don't know if saying how can I support you? I think that's a tough question. I feel like it has to be more poignant for me. Because oftentimes, just like we were saying, it seems easier for me to do it by myself, to tuck everything under the carpet. And just like I did, I was like, I'm just gonna keep going through the motions. What a life that is. Yuck. But that's what it was. Like it was just going through the motions and keeping my head down and saying I guess this is how it's going to be for a while until it's not. So yeah, I guess that was my breaking point. And I'm like, dang, it sucks to be just in this motion of yuck.
And I think too, it's the secrets that we learn to keep. And so for people to say, how can I support you? Well, they would have to know there's a major problem. And what I learned is my addiction would make these demands of, you're going to keep this a secret, right? You're not going to tell anyone I've got a DUI and that's why you're driving everywhere, right? And you've got to pick me up because Ryan lost his license. You're not going to tell everyone early in recovery that I'm at a 12-step meeting, right? You're going to keep this secret with me. I don't know exactly when that secret ended, but when it did end is when we found a lot more freedom. At least I'll speak for myself. I found a lot more freedom.
Woof. Well, yeah, I think it ended the day you got up and told the whole congregation that you were in recovery.
That's probably when it ended.
Yeah, and for my family too. Like
it sounds like there's a story there.
Oh my.
Well, it's how we. So this was about 3 years into my recovery, and I did this with Tammy's. Talking with Tammy a lot about it. My sponsor, mentors in my life. That I stood in front of the congregation and I told them that I was an alcoholic in recovery and how that happened and what that life was like. And I thought, all right, they could totally turn on me. I could be out of a job now.
I thought, oh, my family's hearing this for the first time on YouTube. This is so awful.
Yeah, we could have probably done some things a little differently.
It's okay.
Looking back on it. But what that did.
It was what it was supposed to be.
That's right.
That's
That's exactly right. And what that did for us is it did two things. One, we started getting phone calls and emails like out the wazoo of how'd you do it? I can't put down the bottle, or my brother or sister or mom or dad or aunt, uncle, whoever is battling addiction. Will you talk to them? And so the next Sunday when I got in front of my congregation, I looked out over this hot mess full of people and thought, oh my goodness, our community, and I'm talking about the broader community, we are all battling this stuff together, and we're doing it in these silos and no one knows. And I just, in my mind and heart, I wanted to beg them, look at the person next to you, because I promise you they are going through stuff. I know their story now. And that's why we started this actually new ministry called Free. It was that Sunday changed the trajectory of our
It
lives, and we're
started
grateful.
bubbling.
Yeah,
Something
started the
started
bubble.
bubbling in his
Mhm.
deep down in that spirit. Yeah.
That is amazing. Tell me about the free ministry.
Yeah, so Free, we started just over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now. We started it in our backyard. It was on my birthday, April 3rd of 2018. I went to bed that night and I said, Tammy, what would it be like if we started a place for addicts and loved ones of addicts and what we now call spiritual refugees? Those feel like they've been beaten up by religion, they've been kicked out, they've been told they don't belong. What if we created space for them? And Tammy said, that'd be cool. Let's go to sleep. It was late at night. I brought it up the next morning, and it was just this drum that kept beating, and I couldn't shut it off. That was in April. By May, we were flying out to Houston, talking to some other leaders who we were kind of inspired by. Uh, Also in May, I was at a conference up in Montana for how to plant a new church. All this happened in 1 month. By June, I believe it was June 18th of 2018. So just 2 months after that conversation at night, we had a gathering in our backyard. We planned for it to just be 4 weeks to see who might be interested. And it turns out there was a lot of interest. Our backyard was full. We couldn't fit any more people in it. And people said after the 4 weeks, what's next? And we said, we don't know. We didn't talk about that. We don't know what's next. We just are doing 4 weeks. So we took a month off, and then we started full time. And we've been doing this weekly for the last 2.5 years. And it's a growing, thriving community. I've been appointed here at Free Spiritual Community full time. Tammy and I do this work together. Coffee has been stemmed out of this project, but I'll say this and I'll pass it to Tammy. What we've tried really hard to create here is a place where we always say we don't do shame. Come here, your stories are welcome. We've created a place where your story is encouraged here. We don't kick the wounded. We come with our brokenness. We experience the celebrations together. And it's a group of people. It's exactly what we set out to do, which doesn't happen very often, right? But it's those three groups of people: the addicts, the loved ones of addicts, and to get them in the same room, and then spiritual refugees. So we started with, I don't know, like 20 people in our backyard. And right the week before COVID hit, we were like 120 people meeting on a Saturday night. And I went full time in February. Then we closed our doors in March because of the pandemic. And we're working on reopening now. And it's been a beautiful journey.
Yeah. And I got to pause for a sec, because it's interesting listening to him talk about the last 2 years in a nutshell of like 2 minutes, because there's so much to it. But he breezed over that really quick. But I guess I want to just really say that when he said, let's start this place of addicts and loved ones of addicts, it struck a chord. And I'm like, I am so on board, because not very often do you hear of loved ones and addicts, alcoholics, sitting in the same room, sharing their story, learning from each other. And for me, that was like, I think Ryan and I have always done a really good job communicating and talking. Well, not always, but a good chunk of our marriage, communicating and talking through things. So he would keep me very, helping me understand like what he was taking away from the rooms and about the service. And for me to be like, man, I can be a part of this and understand that part of your story, which is such a big part of who you are. Count me in. I'm going to show up and I'm going to be there. So yeah, I think that's a big part of what Free is.
That's beautiful. I mean, really, your authenticity it transmits, right?
Mm.
Like I totally feel it. I get it that you guys are like the real deal. And I love that. And it's so refreshing to just see the transparency and vulnerability about like, you know what, religion doesn't, I love that idea. I had to highlight spiritual refugees, people who have been beaten up by religion. I totally identify with
Yeah,
that, right?
lots of people do. I can't tell you the number of people who've had some sort of religious traumatic experience
It's
and they find a
trauma.
home here. Like when you voice that experience here, it's not like, oh my goodness, tell me more about how'd that happen. It's like, yeah, me too. Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So many people.
And
Ye-
there's so many stories of why we picked that language, and me included. I had just been ghosted from a religious community about a month prior to Ryan coming up with this idea. So
Oh,
that's
brutal.
why there was, yeah. So we were like, dang, well, what about those people? Yes, we still are part of that still accepted and loved me. And I'm like, okay, that was pretty awful to feel like kicked to the margins and ghosted.
Yeah.
But that's what we were like, we are not going to be those people. And we are going to accept you no matter where you come from, no matter what your history is. There's, like Rai said, there's no shame. We don't do shame.
Yeah, we don't do
Don't
it.
do
I don't
shame.
care who you are, where you come from, what your story is, what you did last night. You're welcome.
And it might
Yeah.
be worth saying, you can edit this out if you need to of the podcast, but
I don't edit.
okay, good. Then I'm going to say it. I'll say it proudly. She was ghosted from a religious community for being pro-gay, not being
Oh,
anti-GLBT community. So it's really important for us to say here, yes, this
you
pastor,
made me want to cry. Oh my God.
we support the LGBTQ community. We love you the way you
Get
are. You
out.
don't
You
need to
guys are
change.
killing
You
me.
can't pray the gay away. You're supported here. This pastor will do your gay wedding. And we just try to get really clear about that here. I know some Christians that makes their blood boil. But this is a guy who used to hate the gay community. I persecuted them, and I did it publicly. God changed my heart. Thanks be to God. So we love the LGBTQ community. We
Yeah.
need them, and you're totally welcome here.
And I can't speak on their behalf. I am not them, but I stand with them and for them. And I wasn't just ghosted. I was let go immediately from my job. Immediately.
Wow.
Fired. Yeah.
Let go. So for me, especially at that point when we were coming up with the languaging of what free was, it was really important that we put the spiritual refugee in, because I'm like, that was a yucky feeling. Ugh.
All right, I'm just trying to collect myself. I'm so moved. Oh my God. I mean, just that was one of the things that I just could not abide. It's like God made these people, God made us all the way we are, right? And the idea of shame and persecution to try to force somebody to be something that they're not causes people to die.
Right. Yes.
Like figuratively and literally.
Yep.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I am so grateful to hear that. I mean, I'm sorry that you experienced such pain in that in being ostracized in that way, but wow, look at the blessing that came out of that. That is amazing. I'm so grateful for you. Well, listen, we're just about at our time, but I wanted to just touch on, I know you have a project with coffee, Addicts Love Coffee. What is going on? Tell me what is happening there.
They do love it. Heck yeah. That was, from the beginning in our backyard, coffee's always been a centerpiece of what we do at Free.
Mhm.
And what we know and what I learned even from Ryan coming home after his first recovery meeting, and I was working in coffee in the corporate world. So that was me, that was my job. And he
funny.
came home and he said, Tami, you aren't going to believe it, but they made me make the coffee and serve the coffee. And so that stuck with me. And that was years before Free even emerged. So as Free started coming full circle and we're doing our thing, I'm like, coffee has to be a
Oh, yeah.
centerpiece. And not just because Tami knows coffee and loves coffee and is passionate about coffee. Coffee makes you feel welcome. Coffee gives a feeling of hospitality. And
Mhm.
that's something that for me, I'm like, I can do that. If I can show up and serve and have coffee that's available for people, that was our starting place. Coffee became such a big deal in this community and beyond, where people were like, could we do this? Could we have your coffee? Could we talk about your coffee? That I'm like, okay, we got to make this thing the real deal. So I took the coffee and ran with it. We commercialized coffee operations in the Rooms of Free last October. So we've been going for about almost 5 months, and it's just been really fun and exciting. I hire and employ women in recovery, and the proceeds go back to women in recovery. Yeah, it's an exciting,
That's a
it's
beautiful
so
thing.
fulfilling. It's so
Where can
fulfilling.
people, what's the website where people can buy the coffee?
The coffee is wagoncoffeeroasters.com. And it's kind of a play on words with what we are, Free, because it's all so integrated, Arlena, that when we talk about free and being the wagon, I was like, we have to call it wagon. We can't call it free coffee because that's confusing, but we can call it wagon coffee because we're being the wagon and we're picking people up. For us, it's all about second chances. It's about extending grace. It's about pulling people back up onto the wagon when they fall off. So we say we're all about second chances, third chances, fourth chances. We're here to receive people and love people and give grace to people, not do shame. So that's what we do. And like I said, it all works together pretty nicely.
I say, it's like that idea that like, how many chances do you give a baby to walk?
Yeah, that's
As many as they need.
Yep, exactly.
Right. So I love multiple chances. Well, listen, you two are doing amazing work. I feel your heart from here, from Idaho. So I am so grateful for the work that you're doing. And I'm so grateful for our friends, Tami and Jennifer, who Jennifer was so sweet to connect us. And I know Tami is a real good friend of yours as well. So I am so happy that I got to meet the two of you. You are darling. If this is a podcast, but I'm actually going to publish I'm going to publish the YouTube video. I told you I didn't do my hair and makeup, but it's not about me. So yeah, I'll definitely post all of this. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time this morning and sharing your experience and all the hope that you have. I will leave links to all the ways that people can connect with you. I would assume that y'all have a Facebook page, or what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, you can go to our website, freespiritualcommunity.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Free Spiritual Community. We connect with you there. We'll connect with you on the webpage. Our email address is bethewagon@gmail.com. We would love to connect with you on any of those places, Instagram too, Twitter, wherever social media is, we're there too.
And as is Wagon Coffee. So if you're like, I am the coffee person, I love coffee. We're also on social media on Facebook.
Oh, yes.
And Instagram, of course. So
oh, yeah.
Wagon Coffee.
Yes, you're right. Right. Yeah. I'll leave links to all of the things on the interwebs so that people can find you and support themselves. How about that?
Beautiful.
I like it.
All right. Well, listen, thank you for your time this morning. I loved your stories, and I just am sending you so much love and blessing, and kiss those babies for me.
Thanks,
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay. We'll talk soon. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.